So, today I had several things that I wanted you to take a look at. My schedule got turned a little bit around for a couple of reasons, but that's okay. We would have covered this stuff at a later point in the semester anyway. And so we'll just cover it today. I'd hoped that the Nobel Prize would have been announced earlier than it was. It was announced this morning for chemistry. And we'll talk about that next week. So I encourage you to go ahead and look up the Nobel Prize. Go to the nobelprize.org website. And you'll be able to see all of the prizes, of course, as they're announced. But the one that we're most interested in, of course, is the chemistry prize. And I think you'll find that it was a good choice. And we'll talk a little bit about that next week. So one of the things that we're supposed to learn this semester is about a variety of resources on campus. You've already learned a little bit about some resources on campus. What resources have we already talked about? Career services, yeah. So you've all learned about career services. And so that is a very important one. And of course you might be thinking that that's a little far off in your future to be thinking about something about career services, but I promise you your graduation date will be here before you know it. And some of you will be thinking about what you need to do next. And so career services is there to help you with that. Even if you know what you want to do next, career services is there to help you for those types of things. So today I wanted to start off by talking a little bit about the Center for Student Success. And you'll see there that you can make an appointment. You all have an Activities 2 coming up. I will allow going to the Center for Student Success as one of your on-campus activities for Campus Activity 2. So keep that in mind. So let's see what the Center for Student Success has to offer. So, you can see all sorts of different types of opportunities there at the Center for Student Success. What do you all think of when you hear that? Center for Student Success. Is that something that might interest you? How many people here are interested in being successful? Just about everybody, right? Nobody comes here not wanting to be successful, right? And so the Center for Student Success is there to help you be successful. What does it mean to be successful as a student? Pardon? To pass. Okay. Is passing enough to be successful? Can you pass all of your classes and graduate? No, right? Passing is a D, right? But you can't get a D in every class and pass. Why is that? And you can't get a D in every class and graduate, I should say. You can pass every class, but you won't graduate. Why is that?
Well, a lot of courses have a C prerequisite.
Okay, a lot of courses have a C prerequisite requirement. That's true. What else?
You have to, you need to be able to show that you know the knowledge that was taught to you throughout your entire education.
Okay.
To get a degree.
Yeah.
If you get a D, then you didn't understand most of what you were taught.
Okay, yeah. So a D, although it is a passing grade, it is not what we would consider a successful grade, right? And so you have to have, if you go in and look in the bulletin, your bulletin year, you'll note that you have to have a 2.0 or better overall to graduate from the university, but you also have to have a 2.0 or better in your major requirements, right? And so it's technically possible for you to pass every class and not graduate. And so, although that's very rare, it has happened in my nearly 20 years here at least once. And so we want to avoid that. What would keep you all from going to the Center for Student Success? What in your mind right now might be like, yeah, that's really not for me?
I don't really know what they do.
Okay, don't really know what they do, okay? Success is kind of this broad thing. Already doing well in your classes, that's right. A lot of people are already doing fairly well and they think, I'm successful, why do I need to go to the Center for Student Success, right? What else? Don't be shy. What would keep one of you from using this as your second activity? Kind of curious. Why is it that you might not want to go to the Center for Student Success? Yeah. You might not have the time. Okay, we're going to talk about time management a little bit today. It's a very important thing. Right now, that's another thing I got to do. It takes time away. But why would this be a good investment? Even if you're doing well, why might this be a good investment?
It helps set you up.
Pardon?
It can help put you down the right path to be successful.
All right. Yeah, we can all improve, right? We can all improve. We can all learn new things and do much, much better. But if you look at their mission, our mission at the Center for Student Success is to help students adjust to life at Southern Miss. Right? For some of you, this is an adjustment, right? To support academic and personal growth from the first day through graduation day. They're here from day one to your final day walking across the stage. Okay? Assist students in making the most of their time at the university. What does that mean, to make the most of your time at the university? Yes?
Doing more than just going to classes.
Yeah, you all are paying for more than just being in this class and your other classes. Don't pass that down, please. Right? Center for Student Success is there to help you with that. Okay? Through purposeful development, students learn to navigate new experiences, challenges, and opportunities. Result-driven programs like workshops, one-on-one success coaching, class presentations, and social organizations connect students with both people and the information they need to be successful in college and beyond. Okay? They do a lot of things that I think will help you in your career here at Southern Miss. So if you're first year, you could go to some of their first year programming. They have success coaching. I served as a success coach one semester just to kind of get a feel for it. I had two students that I was coaching. They had nothing to do with the sciences. They came, we talked, we did a variety of things. These are one-on-one. So if you feel like a little coaching could help you, certainly you can participate in that. They have success experts. Okay, so these are sessions that are approximately 45 minutes, hosted by the Center for Student Success staff, open to all USM students, so you can learn more about that. First year navigators, I'm not as familiar with that one. The Jump Scholars program, that would not apply to you at this point. That's for the semester before. ACES, this is a living learning community at Southern Miss. Anybody here participating in ACES? Probably not as chemistry majors this semester, but ACES is a living learning community where students are kind of living nearby within the dorm and also attending a certain number of classes together. So it's called an active learning community. I would highly recommend you learn more about those if you're interested. Those are known things that make things fairly successful for students. It's a success best practice. There are sophomore programs, there are transfer programs. Some of you are transfer students, all right, so you can get connected. First gen programs, what does it mean to be first gen?
First in your family to go to college.
First in your family to go to college. I'm a first gen. Anybody else in here first gen? Yeah. You know, one of the things that I had when I went to college, my dad had gone to community college. But that's not what defines first gen. It's whether or not, it's a 4-year degree. So when I went off to college, I didn't have parents that knew anything about what it was like to pack up and move and go and move in and find an apartment and try to navigate science classes for sure, right? So there's a lot of anxiety that can be built up among first-gen students not having that support system at home. You know, your parents or your loved ones, they love you, but that doesn't mean they can always help you, right? And so finding people that can help you as a first-gen student is very, very important. There's other student resources here that you need to know about. If you're having issues paying for your textbooks, there are Barnes & Noble textbook scholarships. As you can see, the fall 2023 application is closed, but if next semester this is something that might be of interest to you, you could apply. So check back here in the spring, learn more about what that textbook scholarship entails. They have a student success library where you can go and find resources on demand. Again, the success experts. Southern Miss Cares. What do you all know about? Anybody know anything about the CARES program? No? Faculty can refer you to CARES if they notice things. So don't be, pardon?
A CARES report.
A CARES report? Yeah, they can file a CARES report for students that they see are you know, undergoing some level of stress or unusual behavior that's not common for them. Students, you can also refer fellow students to CARES. If you notice changes in behavior of some of your classmates, you can submit a CARES report, okay? So if you know of any situation here, feel free to reach out to CARES. It's a resource for you. There's a lot of stuff here. We won't go into all of it, but know that CARES is here. Some other help resources are also available. Keep that in mind. Okay. Here you go. So that's the CARES resources. So if you're interested in maybe going to the Center for Student Success, learning what they can help you with, go to make an appointment. When you go to make an appointment, it'll take you to a web page. You'll find a day that you want. You can select staff. You can pick anyone that's probably going to be your best bet. But if you happen to know some folks, you can pick one. You'll pick your time slot. You'll give some details. You'll provide some additional information, like what topics would you like to discuss during your meeting. So you'll just select from there. You know, so maybe you're interested in time management. Maybe you're interested in learning how to take better notes, better study skills. You can pick any of these things. You'll go in for about a 45-minute session, I believe it is, and you can count that as one of your, or as your second activity if you wish. So keep that in mind. So if you go to one of these, take your form with you so that you can get that all filled out and count that as your second activity. Okay, now, nice thing is, they also do virtual or in person. So this is an opportunity for you to not have to walk across campus to access a resource, right? So if you can build it into where, you know, maybe you're in your dorm room, or maybe you're somewhere else and you need to do it virtually, you can do that as well. So they will do that by Microsoft Teams. They don't use Zoom apparently, they just do this by Microsoft Teams. But you all have access to Teams now, so not a big problem. And so you can then submit that and they'll get back in touch with you and you can set up that appointment. Any questions about any of that? All right, you're not going to be able to read that on the screen, obviously. But I had you read the introductory forward, or the introduction to this book called Checklist Manifesto. It's one of my favorite books. Why did I have you all read this?
I guess like when they were talking about his surgeries, it was not the things that he didn't know, it was the things that he didn't think to ask.
That's
that
right.
caused issues.
That's right. What do you all know about checklists? Other than the obvious, it's a list that you check off, right? What do you all know about checklists?
It lets you have more attention to detail if like beforehand you have a list of things, like, you know, going into a surgery, like going through all of the options. It gives you more attention to detail because you know what your options are and you know what to look for.
Every one of you in this room is a smart person. And every one of you says, I'm smart enough that I don't need a checklist. And that's where you're wrong. Smart people need checklists more than less intelligent people. Why do you think that is the case? Why do you think that a world-renowned surgeon decided to write a book about checklists?
I feel like my mom kind of uses, she has more than one thoughts going around in her head. There's more options to situations that can go through. Having a checklist kind of minimizes your thoughts and puts them on a visual piece of paper that you can see that you're not always over the place. It keeps you
That's right.
organized.
It is very, very easy to miss a detail, especially when you're highly intelligent. Very easy. This applies to each and every one of you. Okay? When you get on an airplane, you're trusting a pilot who is highly skilled, very intelligent individual, but they go through a checklist before you take off. And that is a very, very good thing. Right? It is why our success rate at taking off and landing is as high as it is, because there is a checklist. Okay? Otherwise, pilot would look around, get distracted, thinking about whatever, and forget to check maybe X, Y, or Z. And X, Y, or Z could be the difference between a successful takeoff or a successful landing and a disaster, right? Same thing in the surgeon's world. Okay? Atul Gawande is a surgeon. Okay? He thought, if you read the whole book, which is an interesting read, I highly recommend it for everybody, especially if you're going into the medical profession, because it gives insight. I mean, he's a doctor, so it gives you an idea of a physician's perspective on things outside of your medical curriculum. But he was actually tasked by I forget the which organization he was tasked by, but he was tasked to go out and look at hospitals around the world. And, you know, you think about you going into places that don't have a lot of access to top-notch medicine kind of stuff. You think, oh, they're going to need new equipment, they're going to need more highly trained doctors, they're going to need more nurses, they're going to need more X, Y, and Z. When he came back, what he realized is while they might have needed some of that stuff, what they really needed was a checklist. Here you go. Okay? So he came back and then he decided to write this book, right? It's hard to imagine going into an operating room, needing a surgery, and not having the right surgery performed on you, right? Just because somebody didn't ask. Which leg is it that we're supposed to be working on, right? So what do they do now when they do surgeries? They actually write on the leg with a Sharpie, this one, right here, right? Be very clear about it, okay? And so that's some of the stuff with the checklist manifesto that I think is kind of interesting. What else did you take from the reading? Yeah.
There was a situation where they were like ready for surgery and someone's abdomen was open and they just kind of stuck. So I guess it keeps you from being unprepared.
Mhm.
When it's like banging time, I guess.
Yeah. You know, his recommendation, if you read further into the book, you know, in the checklist, you know, in surgery, one of the things that he does when he walks in is he introduces himself to his team. They make sure that they know each other by name before they ever get out any tools and start working. They go through a checklist and make sure, okay, am I doing this type of surgery today, or am I doing the other, because you may have 2 surgeries lined up for the day, 2 or 3, right? It's easy to walk into a room and think, oh, this is the person I'm going to amputate, when in fact, no, this is the person whose appendix I need to be removing. I'm making that up, but, that kind of stuff, just checking that stuff off. Where will a checklist help you all that? Obviously, none of you are going to do surgery, at least I think, right now. So where will this kind of stuff come in handy for you all? Pardon? Labs. Yeah, so as you're putting together your labs, think about your procedure as a checklist. You don't write little boxes out and check it off, but you first do this, then do that, right? That's a checklist. What else?
Assignments you have to do for the week.
Assignments you have to do for the week. That's exactly right. For me, my Sunday evening is preparing for the week ahead, right? And I have a checklist. It's called my calendar, okay? We all don't have to have a separate piece of paper that we make a real official checklist on, but we can work with that in terms of calendars. What else? Oh. What else? How many classes are y'all taking? How many taking more than 3 classes? Most of you. How many of you taking more than 4 classes? Still a good number of you. How many are taking 5 or more classes? Okay. So if you're taking a lot of classes, all of you are taking a fair number of classes, right? It's really easy to forget what's due. It's really easy to forget what's coming up, right? It's really easy to miss that on your schedule. So this is a very interesting read, and it's a very simple tool that can help you be successful. Making a checklist should be part of everybody's Sunday afternoon. The upcoming week, what are the things that I have to accomplish? Okay, and we'll talk a little bit about that again today as well. So, if you were to go into my Outlook, I live by Outlook. And of course, Microsoft has a to-do checklist. You can build that out. I used to use this thing called, what was it called? Wunderlist. Microsoft bought it and then killed it, which I hated, and replaced it with their own checklist. So I don't really use that too much anymore. But there's my week. That's how my schedule is, right? How many in here religiously use your calendars? Okay. This is something that I know sounds boring, and you like to think that you've got a lot of free time. What do you notice in my schedule that I have given to myself? Lunch. I have given myself lunch every day. My boss is the provost. He is the second highest ranking person at this institution. Okay? When he calls and says, I need to meet with you, how about 11 o'clock? I'm like, is there another option? Not that I won't change for him if I need to. But he knows that I have scheduled myself my time for lunch. I get out of the office, I clear my head. I may have lunch with somebody. I hate working lunches. I like that time to unwind. I get here a little bit after 7 in the morning. I leave between 5:30 and 6 every day. I need that time in the middle of the day to kind of reset for the afternoon. This is what works for me. Okay? Notice it's an hour and it's blocked off for the entire week. That's when I have my lunch, right? Why do you think I pick 11 o'clock?
Because campus lunch.
Pardon?
Before campus lunch.
It is. It's typically before everybody else's lunch, so I don't have to wait in lines. I don't have to, fight with you all at Subway or Chick-fil-A. I can get what I need to do and go, or if I walk across campus, it's usually not too busy. It gives me an opportunity in the day. It's also kind of in midday. How many of you have scheduled within your own calendars time for yourself? Okay? This is very important. You have to have time for yourself outside of your classes, work, whatever the case may be. It does not need to be huge quantities of time. Okay? Does not need to be huge quantities of time, but you do need to schedule time for yourself. Okay, so keep that in mind. Schedule that. Okay? So all of the blank times in between that aren't done is just time that I have free, right? Is that correct? No, I've got stuff going on. I've got plenty of stuff going on. I don't schedule each and every activity because I don't know what each and every activity is going to be. In my job, today, we're Wednesday, sometime between noon and 1, I am sure a student's going to call me or my boss is going to call me and something's going to have to be done. Okay? It doesn't mean that the blanks are just free time. Okay? But you certainly schedule in what you need to do. You'll also notice that Chemistry 108's always there. What I'm preparing for, what I'm reviewing, what I'm doing, all of that kind of stuff. Okay. Also notice tomorrow we've got time for Dr. Paul and his investiture as president will happen tomorrow. So I got to be there. So it's down on the list. Okay. How do you all approach your calendar? You all use Outlook?
I use Apple Calendar.
You use iCalendar? Okay.
It's all on my devices.
It's on all your devices? Okay.
I sync all my calendars up together. So my personal calendar is linked up to my Outlook, and my Outlook is connected to my Canvas.
Okay. Good.
I use the planner and my phone calendar. My phone calendar has regular events, and my planner has my school events.
Okay.
I use Google Calendar.
Use Google Calendar? Oh, yeah, you got it all nice and, yeah, good. Good. How many people in here use Google Calendar? A couple of you, okay. iCalendar? Just the list on your phone? Okay. The good news is that I'm hearing you all are using something to help you manage your time. That's very, very important. Time management is the difference between a successful college student and an unsuccessful college student. Each and every one of you got accepted into college. Each and every one of you are smart enough to be in college. Each and every one of you are talented enough to be a chemistry major. That's a given. The difference between being successful and not being successful is really comes down to how you manage your time. Okay? How many of you work outside of school? Right? Several of you, right? How many of you have external activities that aren't related to courses? Okay? When you have all of these things converging on your time, if you don't manage that, it will start to rule your life. Okay? This is where you list what you put on your calendar is your priority. You are telling yourself, I am prioritizing this. Okay? Okay, so you'll notice I don't have any time up there for hanging out with friends. That's after hours for me. Okay, you might meet up at the bar or whatever. But you all should plan for time for your social activities as well. Okay, it needs to be part of it. And so remember, if you put it on your calendar, it needs to be a priority for you. The Center for Student Success can help you build better time management skills as well, so keep that in mind. Okay? I had you watch the video on the time management for students. There's a lot of videos out there. This one was relatively short. I thought covered most of the high points. What did you take from the video? What were some of the things that you hadn't maybe thought of before?
He was talking about in 12 minutes of time, how like instead of getting on your phone, because most people think like it's not enough time to study. He was like, before class, you just take your time to look up your notes
Okay.
instead of getting on your phone.
Okay. Yeah. What else? What else did y'all take from it?
He said like changing the way you think of self-care and like your own, like what you consider to be self-care, like maybe find a different way to think about that. Instead of self-care being lay in your bed for 3 hours, maybe it can be going to a student organization.
Mm-hmm. That's right. Social time certainly is self-care. Self-care is important, isn't it? I mean, if you don't take care of yourself, nobody else will. I promise you that. And, you know, you've heard the old adage, work your fingers to the bone, what do you get? Bony fingers, right? So, you've got to have some time for yourself. You don't want to just have bony fingers, right? You want to have a successful life that leads to happiness, wealth, and all those kinds of things that we all think about. What else did y'all take from it?
Don't always like get frustrated when people try to interrupt your time. Like sometimes you need to take, even if you're not ready to take that break, sometimes it's necessary to kind of reset what you're doing.
That's going to be a little different for everybody else. You know, that was his recommendation was to, you know, be interrupted from time to time to give breaks. And that does work for some people. Some people like to have longer periods of time where they're left alone. Whatever works for you. I think it's not bad advice. I think it is important to think about how he talked about studying a little bit, right? In kind of smaller chunks is kind of an important thing. Make sure you have time built in to take little breaks in terms of studying. Cramming before the exam, do you think that's a good idea? Ain't a good idea. It's not even really worth it. My daughter, who is a college student here in her last year, came home the other night and was talking about how she needed to cram before the exam, and I just looked at her and I said, Brianna, it's too late. It's too late. If you're trying to cram and get everything in a couple of hours the night before your 8 a.m. exam, it's probably too late. Now, that doesn't mean you don't need to study and review. That's not what I'm suggesting, right? But it was, she came in, she was all panicked. I haven't had time to study. I got to cram. It's not really going to work. Just doesn't, okay? Some of you think it does, but I promise you that it really does not. Okay, so make sure it's better to get a good night's rest the night before than it is to stay up all night and pull an all-nighter. Okay? I know many of you have learned of the tragedy last week with a young man who took his life off of the parking garage. So I wanted to talk a little bit about counseling services. I am not a professional counselor. I'm not going to give counseling advice. But I want each and every one of you to know that I am here for you if you ever need help with anything. I can get you the help that you need. Okay? Do not be afraid to pick up the phone and call somebody. Okay? There is nothing, in my opinion, that is so bad that it can't be fixed. Okay? This is these are the types of tragedies that we don't want to have. I don't want these to be there ever again. I know that that's not realistic, but you know, these types of things really hit a community like ours very, very hard. And many of you may be dealing with it. Some of you may have known the individual. I don't know what the situation is, but I want you all to know that the institution and all of its faculty and staff are here for you. And so keep that in mind. We do offer student counseling services. I'm trying to get arrangements for counseling services to come and talk to you about the different things that they offer. That was normally in the plans, probably more towards November, but I'm trying to get that moved up a little bit. So I want you to know that there's lots of resources here available to you. Of course, there's the National Crisis Hotline, 988. If you feel yourself being overly stressed and concerned about your own well-being, don't be afraid 24/7 to call or text 988, and they will provide you support. Okay? Know that there is group counseling that is free for Southern Miss students. Your tuition dollars go to this. Please make use of it if you feel the need to do that. Here is their mission statement. Student counseling services provide quality services to Southern Miss students by promoting sound mental health and the coping skills necessary for successful pursuit of your education and life goals. They are mental health professionals. I am not a mental health professional, right? They work in the spirit of collaboration with the Division of Student Affairs to support individual responsibility, personal growth, and wellness of all members of the student body. They also have a diversity statement. These are a non-judgmental group of people, okay? All student counseling services staff are committed to respecting, affirming, and celebrating the diversity of all of us. Therefore, discrimination in any of its form is inconsistent with the mission and our values, okay? So, regardless of what you're going through, they're going to be there to help you, okay? I want you to know that these folks are there. We're all here, okay, to help you in any way that we can. You all have my phone number in the syllabus during the day. If you ever find yourself needing help, don't be afraid to call. Don't be afraid to email me. I respond to emails up to 9 p.m. usually, and I would be more than happy to get you in touch with any help that you might need, okay? Do not be afraid to use counseling services if you feel the need to do that, okay? One of the things that I believe contributes to a lot of this is, well, there's a number of things that contribute to it. Again, I'm not an expert, but in my personal opinion, I think there are a lot of things that you all can do to minimize that stress, okay? Stress is a leading cause of these types of issues. And if you plan, if you don't put off, if you don't put that extra stress on yourself, I think that goes a long, long way, okay? So keep that in mind. Is there any questions about the counseling services? They offer all sorts of services available to you throughout your time here, so please take advantage of it if you so need to. Okay. Now, I'm not going to show the video again, but you all needed to watch the video from former Golden Eagle, Jessica Flynn. When she was here, I knew her as Jessica Shackelford. She has since gotten married, and she lives up around Oxford, I think, now. What can you all take from Jessica's story?
Starting to do research as a freshman.
Yeah, she started to do research as a freshman. Was she confident about doing research as a freshman? No. What was her story about with that?
Well, she had no prior lab experience.
That's right. She came from a high school that really didn't have laboratory experiences, right? So she was a little worried about getting into a lab where there's things that can do things and maybe to you and be a little on the dangerous side. And so she was a little nervous about that. What else can you take from her story?
That the opportunities at USM to do that undergrad research, a lot of people don't have.
That is true. So one of the things that I will say about being at a place like Southern Miss, so I've been at the University of Oklahoma, I've been at Vanderbilt University. University of Oklahoma obviously has a lot more students than we do here at Southern Miss. The programs are bigger. The chemistry program at Oklahoma, I think it's 500 majors, right? So it's a lot larger than here. At Vanderbilt, it was a research intensive university where, a lot of faculty didn't teach every year. I mean, they were expected to be in their lab and doing things on graduate education and research and writing grants and all that kind of stuff. One of the nice things about being at a place like Southern Miss, especially I think for a student, is we're kind of a mix. We're big enough that we have a lot of things, but we're not so big that you don't get that personal one-on-one attention. Each and every one of you have to do research if you remain a chemistry major at some point. You have to do at least one semester. It's called our capstone experience, okay? However, I would encourage you to do more than one semester of research, and I would also encourage you to get involved in this early. There's a couple of reasons for that. Number one, the first reason, is that the more you are engaged in research, the more likely you are to be successful as a student, because you're applying what you learned in the classroom in a real setting, a real research setting. When you go into the Gen Chem lab or the organic lab, we already know the outcome. I've done those experiments before we wrote the lab manual. I did those. I know they work. Okay? When you go into the research lab, you're going to solve a real problem, right? I may have an idea of what that outcome should be, right? I formed a hypothesis, but you all are going to test that. Nobody really knows what the answer is. So there's something about doing something for the first time that's never been done that's kind of exciting. One of the things that I told Jessica when she was working in my lab, so she had done some experiments, and I looked at her and I said, you know, more people have walked on the moon than did what you've just done. You're the only person in the world that's been able to do this. That's pretty cool, right? There's nowhere ever published, nobody knows of anybody else that's done what you've done. But 12 people have walked on the moon, right? That's pretty cool, right? To be the only person that has ever done something. That's an experience that each and every one of you can have if you go into the research laboratory. Going into your regular laboratory, you and 25 other people are going to do that same thing. And back in history, tons of people have done that same thing. But when you're in the research lab, you'll be the only person that has done that thing. Okay? And so that's a cool feeling to be, that's the closest I'll ever get to a Nobel Prize. Just to say that I'm the first person that did X, Y, or Z. That's kind of cool, right? It's certainly an accomplishment to be able to say that. What else about Jessica did you all find interesting?
She allowed her interest in chemistry to spark when she was in high school. And it arised from basically her disinterest in biology.
Yep. Yep. So you don't have to have a disinterest in biology like she did, but when she was younger, she really wasn't all that interested in science. And she had a teacher, right, in high school that really sparked her interest in chemistry, and it went from there. What else? What else may have resonated with you?
Her being able to travel, like in the summer of her sophomore year.
Yeah, so the experiences that she had outside of USM, right, were also very, very important. These are things that you all need to think about. Study abroad. Summer research opportunities. One of the cool things about being in the sciences, as opposed to some of the other disciplines, is that the National Science Foundation gives millions and millions of dollars every summer for these things called SURF programs, Summer Undergraduate Research Fellowships. Okay? And there are places around the country. We have one here at Southern Miss where you could do summer research, but you might want to go somewhere else, right? And you get paid. You can get paid to go somewhere else in the summer and do chemistry research. Why would that benefit you?
You get real world experience.
You get real world experience. What else?
You know, the resume.
You get paid. Yeah, let's be honest, you get paid. What else?
You could probably put it on your resume when you look for a job.
Ah, yes. Resume. Yeah, definitely something you can put on your resume. You can end up being a published author. That work can quite frequently lead to papers that you can point to and say that you contributed to those scholarly works. What else? Kind of moves you out of your comfort zone a little bit, doesn't it? And that's a good thing, being moved out of your comfort zone a little bit. Okay? Jessica did too. Does anybody remember the name of the person who she did her first one with? Did you say something?
Said you.
Well, her first research experience was with me, but I mean when she went out from USM.
I remember one was in North Dakota, but I can't remember the name.
Where?
In North Dakota.
It was in North Dakota. His name was Mukund Sibi, a friend of mine. Jessica had come to me and she said, I'm thinking I'd like to maybe go do some summer research. Do you know anybody? And I said, yeah, I know this guy in North Dakota. I said, how do you feel about going to North Dakota? She said, I've never been. I said, well, there's an opportunity. So I called up Mook, as I call him, and I said, I got this really great hotshot student that wants to do some summer research. Would you happen to have a position? And he said, well, we don't have a program, but he said, I've got a little extra money in my grant. He said, I'd be willing to have her come and spend, I think it was 8 weeks. And she went there and worked with him for 8 weeks and got an excellent experience. She also did a second experience. Do anybody remember where she did her second experience? Yeah, at Urbana-Champaign, University of Illinois. She did her work there with a hotshot chemist named Scott Denmark. He's actually very famous. And this is where Jessica really came into her own. I don't know that she talked about it in the video, I don't remember. But Scott Denmark is a very high energy, high intensity person. He's there when everybody gets there, and he's still there when everybody leaves. He's that kind of individual. And on the weekends, he races cars, and he's just one of these really interesting kind of people, okay? And she was able to go into his lab and impress him with what she was able to do. And that, when she came back from that experience, she was a very confident individual. Nothing would stop her from achieving her goals. And so that was a life-transforming opportunity for her that she took advantage of. Those experiences led to her writing an NSF fellowship. She got an NSF fellowship to do her graduate work at Vanderbilt, and she did her graduate work at Vanderbilt, got her master's degree, and now works in what industry does she work in?
Paper industry.
Paper industry. So I'm not exactly sure what she's working on now. I haven't talked to her in a couple of years, but at the time anyway, she was working on ways to make paper a little stronger, less tear resistant, right? All the properties that you think of with paper. So she started off with me working on organic chemistry. She went and did organic chemistry the rest of her career, and now she's in the paper industry, living up somewhere around Oxford, Mississippi. And so she's had a very successful career as a former Golden Eagle, and all started here back in 2005, right after Hurricane Katrina. Most of you probably don't even remember that. And she came here and started her work, got involved very, very early on. Okay? How many of you are thinking about maybe getting involved in research a little earlier? Okay, good. One of the things that you're going to get out of this class is I will have faculty either come and talk about their research, or we will have videos that you all will watch about the research that they go on or that they're doing. I would highly recommend you to go ahead and start engaging with these faculty and finding somebody that you want to do your research project with. Okay? So, how do you go about finding somebody? Networking. What resources do you have to make that happen? Okay, there is Handshake. Handshake, I would say, career services really likes Handshake. Most faculty don't like Handshake. Handshake's more about finding jobs, but about finding research opportunities on campus within chemistry.
Faculty directory.
Pardon?
The faculty directory.
Okay, the faculty directory. You can go on the webpage and find faculty, so you can easily do this by doing USM, and then it's just faculty directory. Okay, and you can find all of the faculty there. You can type in chemistry. And anybody that has that listed in their web profile, so there's Dr. Broom. He's a teaching professor. His areas of expertise, what he's interested in. Dr. Gordon Cannon. Tristan Clemens is over in polymers, but you'll notice the word chemistry is there, even though he's not in the chemistry program here. He does chemistry, so you might be interested in that if you're interested in that kind of work. There's another chemistry education. Dr. Donahue is in our program, so you can find all kinds of information about faculty and kind of what they're doing by looking at it. So there's Dr. Guo. He's an associate professor in chemistry. You can click, and that will take you to his biography. You can find all kinds of information there. Okay, so there's lots of ways of getting this. What other resource do you have? Who came and talked to you early on in the semester? Other than career services. Who came and talked to you from chemistry? The ACS student affiliates, right? How can they help you? How can they help you find a professor?
They're probably much further along into their
That's right, they're further along. A lot of them are further along. A lot of them are already doing the research. You can talk to them. Hey, I'm kind of interested in this area of biochemistry. Who does that? Well, our lab doesn't really do that, but they do something similar to that. Maybe you want to go talk to Dr. Huang. You can have those kinds of conversations with your own peers, okay? The other resource that you have is me. I'm happy to make connections with you and other people. Just send me an email. Hey, I'm kind of interested in this area of science. Who at USM could I maybe go talk to about what they do? I can give you a list of people. Okay, so I'm a resource. I'm here to help you make those connections. The other thing that's very, very important about doing research early is letters of recommendation. You all are going to need letters of recommendation at some point, okay? If all I know from you is our interactions here, what can I really say about you?
Quiet.
I can say you're quiet. What else can I say? I can go in my grade book and I can say they turned everything in, they got this grade, right? But what can I really say beyond that? Not much, right? I mean, I'm just going to be honest with you. 4 years from now, I'll probably remember your face, but I won't remember your name if we've not interacted much, right? And so if you come to me and you say, I really need a letter of recommendation, I could probably write you a decent letter of recommendation, but can I write you a convincing and overpowering letter of recommendation? Probably not. Who's going to be able to do that? Whoever it is that you do research with, right? Even if it's for a semester, but if it's for more. Jessica's letter, I'm not afraid to tell you, Jessica's letter of recommendation from me was nearly 3 pages long. What was I able to talk about? I was able to obviously talk about how smart she was. But I was, and anybody could have said that, but I was able to talk about her work ethic. I was able to talk about how she took a problem and made it her own problem to solve and how she went about solving it. I can talk about the times that she ran into roadblocks, that things didn't work, and how she persevered and how she decided to look at the problem from a different perspective and finally find a solution. Those are things that you can't get from a classroom interaction. And so it was that letter, among other things, right, that helped her get that NSF fellowship, that helped her get her job at her company. Those types of things. Those are the kinds of things that people are looking for. Okay? So, getting involved early on is going to help you with that, especially if you're thinking about going on to professional school of some sort, medical school, whatever the case may be. You're going to need those letters of recommendation. And faculty members writing letters of recommendation for you because you've been in class. They can write a good one, but it'll be about a half a page. And do you know what committees do with half a page letters of recommendation? They don't even bother reading them. If it's not 2 pages or more, they usually don't read them. Okay? Because they know that first half page is the standard stuff. Right? And they already know that standard stuff about you from your other application materials. Okay? All right, on your card, write your name, print your name, put your ID number, turn it in on your way out. I have not graded your semester by semester guides yet. I will get to that this week. But you have that document now, and please take that with you to your advising session. Work with your professional advisor or your faculty advisor to build that semester by semester guide as you need it. Thank you all.